But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Welcome to the Rantzerker. You know what? I'm not going to do the intro today. I don't feel like it. So no intro. This one is on the Young Turks versus Tucker Carlson's Men's Issues show. Rantzerker number 103. I'll be your host, Alison and with me today, joining me today, is Brian Martinez.
What up?
We're going to... what up? What isn't up? Okay, we're going to be doing an hour of this, and then we're going to take it to the after show. So there are no gamification through super chats today, because unfortunately, we have to get out of the pipeline for Hannah's show tonight. So we can't go extra long this time. So it's just the hour, and so we'll do as much as we can in an hour. I assume there will be a lot of repetition. I'm pretty sure that whatever we get through in this hour will. It's the Young Turks.
It's the Young
Turks. Essentially, it'll just be repetition. Like they'll state all their stuff, then they'll repeat it, then they'll repeat it, then they'll repeat it. So. Regardless, if you really want us to go, or if you want to hear more, you can join us in the after show. You get the after show link through Patreon, www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Now let's get on with the show.
Okay.
Let's get this.
Really quick disclaimer. So sorry, my internet, there was a power outage in my neighborhood and I lost all power in the house. A lot of people lost it in the area, and Comcast also lost power. And I didn't get internet back until 7 o'clock last night in the evening. So you can imagine how barbaric it was for me to live without it for this long. So, all right, we're going to get into this. This is the Badgers on the Turks on Tucker Carlson, and no, it's not as sexy as it sounds. What?
Oh, I was going to say, did you revert to a caveman? Did you start?
I did. I mean, it just...
wife around by her hair?
I basically stole a car. I was driving around the neighborhood, stealing gasoline and killing people. I mean, it went off the rails, and when the internet came back, everyone was grateful except those who perished during the apocalypse.
That was a joke.
Yes,
I can imagine that being taken out of context now.
Okay, so that's why this show is done in the on a stranger day than normal. It's just my internet crap happened and
Comcast. All right, let's do it.
All right, let's do this. Here we go. Thank you, Anna.
Typically celebrates women, known as Women's Month. However, Tucker Carlson feels like he needs to take over the month and represent some of the issues that men are facing today.
I thought it was just a day.
How is Tucker Carlson taking over the month? Is the patriarchy that powerful? Did we cease to have a Women's Month because he made a fucking video? That's all I wanted to say.
What is April Women's Month now?
Yeah. Well, no, wait. We're not in April, are we?
No. Oh,
it's
sorry.
still
March. March is Women's Month.
March is Women's Month now. Yes. And
I thought it was just Women's Day.
Now it's a month? Yeah, now it's a month. There is Women's Day is in Women's Month. Yeah. So, and I guess
when was this decided? I'm gonna go do some Google Foo here. Women's Month. Decided date. Let's see if we get something. How it started. March is Women's History Month. How it started. Okay, I'm on Times, a Times article. Many things have come to womankind surprisingly recently. The right to vote, but not the obligation to the draft. The right to own property. What? Women have owned property since they were... whatever. And perhaps less surprisingly, the existence of Women's History Month. Before women had the whole month, the U.S. recognized Women's History Week. Before that, a single International Women's Day. Dedicating the whole month of March in honor of women's achievements may seem irrelevant today. But at the time of the conception of Women's History Week, activists saw the designation as a way to revise a written and social American history that had largely ignored women's contributions. Okay. The celebratory month has had its roots in the National Socialist, or the Socialist, oops, sorry for the faux pas there. It actually didn't say National Socialist, it just said Socialist, and labor movements. The first Women's Day took place on February 28th, 1909 in New York's, wait, that's February. All right. So this is a little bit of a creeping holiday. It's just sort of like the blob. It's taking over the calendar.
But you can't take February. That's Black History Month.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
whoa there, white feminism. Back off.
Okay. So I'm finding out that the National Women's History Project was the one that created the Women's History Week in 1978. All right.
A moment of silence for all the women whose lives have been sacrificed in the name of women, I guess.
Now presidents. Oh, okay. So the National Women's History Month was established in 1987. And I assume now that that was established, we cannot talk about men's issues on this date.
No.
Because to do so would be to take away from women's achievements, even though they have nothing to do with one another.
Oh, you know what? It's almost like when Father's Day comes around and they make it all about single mothers. I think I get the idea. I think I know where this comes from. You know what? And I also vote that we change, because International Men's Day is in November, and people have called it Movember for male health awareness. I think we should change it to Brovember. That's what I propose. Hashtag Brovember when November comes around for men. Make it the men's month. November has Thanksgiving too, so I think that works.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Let's moving on.
Do some more.
Brovember, guys.
Now, it's a multi-part series that Carlson is focusing on, and in the latest video, he discusses the issue of wages that men earn versus women. I don't want to give too much away. Let's take a look at the first video.
All right, I'm gonna skip the Tucker part because we've heard it already. Unless you want to hear it again for context.
No, I think. No, I'm more interested in Anna's response, but I do want to make sure that we do the 20-second break.
Yeah,
because unfortunately, the copyright, they are still doing that, and they hit us with the last one. So
okay,
let's skip Tucker. Let's go to Anna's response.
All right, I'm skipping the Tucker. Yeah.
These children growing up without fathers tend to make lower wages themselves in later life.
I watched the full segment, which we don't have time to show you on our show. And he keeps referencing academic research from 2015. And he never states where the research is from, who did the research. The only time.
I'm just pausing for the banana because that's 20 seconds.
Well, I mean, fair point. He should have probably put in the research so that other people could take a look at it. Mm-hmm. Although he is in a format that makes that really difficult since he's on CNN. I assume that, or not CNN, News. Fox. Oh my God, I'm dropping the ball today. Okay, so
it's okay.
It makes it sort of difficult if you're on a live broadcast to put in links to research, and also if he had cited relative sources during, it would have increased the length. But it would have been nice to have a website or something where you can just go and take a look at what he has available to source his claims. So, I mean, point to Anna. Yeah, it would have been great if he had actually put in some citations.
It would have been, yeah. But I mean, to your point, it's just not really plausible in the format. One thing that Tucker could have done is on his, I think he posts clips from these on his Facebook group page, more like a fan page or whatever. Maybe if it's managed by him, because there's no way of knowing, that could be a fan also. That could be something to use. However, I will say this. Anna does go back and use one of the references that she believes is the one that Tucker is using for his research to make an argument against him. So that comes up later in the program.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Time he referenced research was a study done by MIT, which actually did have some fascinating results, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But he twisted the results of that study to suit his narrative. Right?
Really, really. Okay, let's. When does?
That comes up. Yeah, I know that comes up later though. So
Twisting the results, huh?
Yeah, she claims that he twists the results.
Do you know where that comes up? Maybe we can take a gander.
Let me see if I can jump to it. I wish I had done that. Maybe it's right over here somewhere.
Okay.
Shit. I think it's right here. Maybe. I hope. Okay.
So let's get to the one study that he actually did cite.
Damn, I'm good.
In making his argument. And again, there are kernels of truth in what he is saying. There are certain blue-collar workers who have lost their jobs in manufacturing for a variety of reasons. But
one of them, could one of them possibly be that women's movements in the U.S. campaigned against Obama's stimulus package when they found out that it would preferentially target blue-collar jobs, which are majority male? Like, did you know about that, Anna? That women's groups in the U.S. Obama was putting in a stimulus package that was supposed to assist in creating and maintaining blue-collar jobs, which are majority male, and women's groups said no. Because this stimulus package is going to help men. It can't. We don't agree with it, and they got it changed. They got it scrapped. Could that be part of the? Could that be contributed? Okay, well, let's find out what she thinks happened.
Okay.
Women are not making significantly more money than those men did. In fact, women typically work in professions that pay significantly less, which is the reason why men are less likely and less willing to transition to those professions. Let me give you those details.
Pausing for the banana because I don't want to cut her off in the middle of a sentence. Otherwise, people might forget what she said or forget the context. So
what she's saying is that men don't want to go into professions that make less, and that's why they're not in women's professions. Okay.
Yeah, or professions typically dominated by women. Yeah.
Yeah, typically dominated by women. Could it also be that they face discrimination in those professions typically dominated by women? Because I've heard that as well.
Well,
but that can't possibly be it.
What is it? To give women a leg up, there's usually programs and things set up to essentially make sure that women have a better chance of getting these kinds of jobs. So that could be affecting the men that don't get those jobs too.
Okay, and here's the other thing. Tucker laid out that when men don't make more than women, women do not want them as partners. So men would not want to choose those professions that will put them in a situation where they're making equivalent to the women in them. Like that they're making like the lower paid professions simply because they want to get married and have children and they want to be attractive to a partner. And if women are only attracted to men who make more than them, why would they go into these professions? But let's hear what she has to say.
By the way, to your point about that attraction thing, the Young Turks debunk that earlier in this video, so we'll have to go back.
Debunk it?
They debunk it. Like they use their crazy spaghetti logic in an attempt to debunk the notion that women are interested in men that make more than they do. It's retarded, but we'll get back to it.
So the two occupations predicted by the Bureau of Labor Statistics to decline the most quickly from 2014 to 2024 are locomotive firers, shrinking 70%, and vehicle electronics installers and repairers, down 50%. They are 96% and 98% male.
Just pausing it again for the banana. Well, she hasn't laid out her whole case yet. Takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So it's and again, we apologize, but they are really strict on copyright.
Yeah, and I know the Young Turks, even though I've done all the filters and everything, I know the Young Turks they would not be okay with this. So
okay.
Of the fastest growing jobs, many are various types of health aides, which are about 90% female. When men take these so-called pink-collar jobs, they have more job security and wage growth than in blue-collar work, according to recent research. But they are paid less and feel stigmatized.
Which is that speaks to my point.
Mm-hmm.
So they're being discriminated against in these particular workforces, and not just against by the general society. they're also being stigmatized against by the nurses, the female nurses who believe that that's their territory and their jobs, and men shouldn't be in them. And I've seen that, and I've heard from male nurses that they experience discrimination.
Yeah.
And one of the most prevalent forms of discrimination is that male nurses are continuously seen as being predatory, sexually predatory, abusive. They're suspected of these things.
Yeah.
And so they have to deal with that kind of low level, constant suspicion, even to do their jobs. So it's good that she mentions the stigma, because it's not just stigma because, oh yeah, you're a male nurse. Oh, you're just, what kind of fag are you?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that doesn't get quote mined. But also from men. In fact, I don't even think men would necessarily engage in that kind of stigmatization that much. It's a lot of it is from the female nurses. Not all female nurses, but there are female nurses who are very territorial about nursing, and they think that every man who goes in it is actually secretly a predator, and they're treated that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay, moving on.
So the MIT economist that Tucker Carlson referenced in that piece or in that segment said the following. This is his quote. "The jobs being created are very different than the jobs being eliminated. I'm not worried about whether there will be jobs. I'm very worried about whether there will be jobs for low-educated adults, especially the males who seem very reluctant to take the new jobs."
Okay. And why would they want to go into fields where they're going to feel stigmatized? And furthermore, like, how do you solve this issue? How do you make nursing attractive to men? I mean, well, first of all, like, essentially this is like the push for women to go into STEM. If you really want to change that, you really want to make it, you want to solve the problem of all these men being laid off as truck drivers and machine repairists. You want to solve all of that, and you want to make nursing attractive to men. How would you do that, Anna? I'm just throwing it out there. You can reply in the comments. Maybe you guys have an idea. But
I don't think Anna's interested in solving the problem, to be honest.
No, she's just
she
interested
probably doesn't
in tearing
even.
Tucker down.
Yeah, she just hates Tucker. I actually think that she doesn't even think that there is a problem. I'm not sure though. But let's continue. Let's see what.
No, the obvious solution is for men to go into a form of work in which they get paid less.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do what they went into work to do, which is to become attractive to women. I don't care what the Young Turks said. The research I've seen shows that if men didn't have to make themselves attractive to women by having a solid income, if they didn't have to do that, they would pursue other interests in their lives and wouldn't pursue income don't put income as important. So if you want to change that, you can't go to the men and say, oh, hey, just forget about what women want.
Mm-hmm.
Just do you. You have to go to the women and say, hey, do you think you could relax the standards on income? Could you just pull them back a bit? Maybe be satisfied with somebody who earns equally to you, or maybe even a little less, but has more time to take care of your kids. Could you be satisfied with that? Could you move back your expectations to be consistent with what you will get? And that's an opinion. Of course, they don't even think that's on the table, because of course women don't expect men to earn more than them. That's not a thing.
No.
I've never experienced some woman telling me, why did you get involved with your husband if he didn't have a car? Like, of all things,
mm-hmm.
when you met him. Like, I have seen this so much with women, even with feminist women who supposedly are questioning this about themselves. First and foremost, what does he bring home? Does he have a car? Does he have a house? What are the resources that he can provide me? And if he fails on any of those expectations, he is, of course, a loser. And I don't know how they can get Okay, I will be interested in the spaghetti that they use to try to
Yeah.
justify that this isn't true. Okay.
Can I give a little
Sorry about the
anecdote?
rant.
No, it's okay. Can I give a little anecdote? Because I've had personal experience with this kind of thing from women. There was is that okay? It's not. I know it's not. It's not data. It's not like, solid evidence. But I've seen this. This is not unusual where women have expectations from men to be able to essentially have the resources that they're looking for to give them, not just to provide and protect, but also to make them comfortable and to hopefully build a nice place where they can raise children. I dated a girl when I was in my early 20s. So this was around the just before the turn of the century. And we were crazy about each other. Like, we had a lot in common. We got along well. We had great conversations. She thought I was a lot of fun, all this other stuff. Unfortunately, I was a college student that had a part-time job, and I wasn't making a lot of money. So I didn't own a car. I didn't, have my own place. I was like rooming with other people, stuff like that. Even though everything was great between us and all that, she broke up with me not because I did anything wrong, but because she calculated how much money a man should be making in order for them to have any semblance of what she perceives to be a minimally comfortable lifestyle. And she did not foresee that I was going to accomplish that goal. It was $40,000 a year at the time with insurance and benefits. She didn't think it was going to happen soon enough for her. And she was also we were about the same age. So she was in her 20s too. And so she basically said, you know what, I'm not going to bother with the, dating for much longer because I don't think there's time and I don't see this happening. In the long run, we're going to get hurt. So I'm just going to break up with you now. And so she did. She made what she believed to be a calculated decision. And at the time, I was flabbergasted by that. I couldn't believe that someone wouldn't just, enjoy the time that we had. But she didn't want to do that. She was just like, I think you're a great person, everything else, but I'm going to break up because I don't see this going anywhere. You're not at the point where I think you should be, basically.
You're not making enough, and I don't project you making enough.
Exactly. You don't make enough, and I don't see how you're going to, right? The ironic thing about it is that we're still friends because I didn't hate her or anything. I thought it was really strange at the time. And she is very unhappy now because she was doing that with so many other men. And now she's got a couple of kids and she's going through a divorce and she's extremely remorseful and sad. So, and I'm not glad about that. This is not Schadenfreude, but I'm just letting you know that this is a real thing that happens. And I think it's not just something that's in women's nature. I think that it's cranked up socially. Like we tell them they can have anything and they deserve it, but just by virtue of being women, and they start to buy it, and then they make terrible decisions.
I would say one of the things that's surprising is that she actually had more of a reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
On the whole, and that actually surprises me. And I'm not. The thing is, it's incredibly mercenary, but she wasn't talking about 400,000.
Right.
So it's like and I'm not justifying what she's saying. I'm saying that for the most part, most of this, when I hear this kind of thing, it's not even a reasonable number. Mm-hmm. It's not even like something that that the average man could reasonably obtain. He has to be a millionaire, that kind of thing. And so, but I have seen that exactly what you're talking about. And the thing is that we either have to face that and resolve it and develop whatever else women can find interesting about men other than income, if men are going to take this huge income hit in the coming decades, or we have to actually do something about making sure that men remain having an income that's attractive to women, or we just experience a demographic death, and the only solution is to import people from cultures that still have strong families. All right.
I got a super chat I want to read before it disappears. Xerax gave us $5 and says, Tucker being chastised on citing research by Anna, Queen of Research Kasparian. LOL. All right. That's it. I just didn't want to lose it because for some reason it's not showing up in my history over here on this end. All right. Continuing on.
So here's an example of one man who was interviewed by the New York Times. He said the following: I ain't gonna be a nurse. I don't have the tolerance for people. I don't want it to sound bad, but I've always seen a woman in the position of a nurse or some kind of healthcare worker. I see it as more of a woman's touch. So a sociologist who was also interviewed by the Times said traditional masculinity is standing in the way of working class men's employment. And I think it's a problem.
Okay, where does traditional masculinity come from? You think that it's just men, gaying it out on other men? I just really want to become sexually attractive to another man. Therefore, I'm going to engage in these kinds of activities. Really? Is it, and again, I know that they argued this can't possibly be the case, but could traditional masculinity be otherwise called women's expectations of men? Like,
no, that's crazy talk, Allison. What are you talking about?
So they absolutely admit the possibility that women exert any kind of influence on men.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's misogyny to recognize that women have any social power.
Traditional masculinity just comes out of the ether. It's just something we came up with.
Yeah, and you enforce on each other because unlike women, women control access to sex for heterosexual men, intimacy, sense of belonging. But really, all you guys are doing this, you're all embodying this traditional masculinity in order to appeal to other men who you don't have really strong relationships due to the traditional masculinities. It's this circular fucking logic. And it's all because people like the Young Turks, feminists, have an absolute religious belief that women have no capability to influence or affect anything. It's like, no, they just float through life like I don't know, some sort of thing that floats and does nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they turn around and deride anyone else who says, well, no, wait, women do have an effect on things. No! Women have no effect on anything. They can't possibly. It isn't part of my religions. They're always just acted upon.
In every
All
circumstance.
Men. Yes.
Okay, so one other super chat that I missed from earlier from French Honey Badger. So word is from Ancapistan, $5. You have Black History Month in February and March for Women's History Month. He was just explaining that. All right, so moving on with this bit.
So there is a cultural issue and there's also an education issue because the very party that continues to dismantle education, defund education, and also give it a bad name with all sorts of defamatory statements in regard to elitism are convincing people to not pursue their education and remain low skilled. And yes, automation is happening. There is.
All right, just pausing for the banana. It's funny that Anna's bringing that up. The Republicans don't want to dismantle education. They're defunding the parts of education that are not useful for learning life skills. I'm not a Republican, but I don't want them misrepresented in this argument. She's making an inaccurate statement. Basically, they were defunding the liberal arts, which I can understand the motivations behind it, right? We're talking about skills that are not actually useful and stuff that's pretty potentially destructive if you look at the state of sociology and whatnot today. So that's not the same. Plus, that's also what's available in college now doesn't necessarily prepare men for regular, or women for that matter, for the kinds of jobs that are being lost. A lot of the stuff that it could be, it's either stuff that you just learn on the field, like if you're a truck driver. I don't think there's a school for that. I'm not saying that it's that easy to do. I just think that I'm not sure that there's a school that exists for it. But if you're looking at other blue collar jobs like construction or automotive repair or stuff around the house, like being some kind of plumber or repair person, there are trade schools for that, not necessarily colleges. And no one's trying to, as far as I know, no one's trying to defund trade schools.
No, I doubt that.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we don't need more people with useless degrees.
Yeah.
And so and the other thing is, I don't think
it puts people in debt on top of that. So it actually makes things worse, economically speaking, because you have people that come out of college with a fucking, I don't know, feminist history book degree or some shit, or film theory or something, and they spent 80 grand on it, and now they got to pay it back. And there is no place where you can go and utilize those skills in a way that will allow you to pay off that debt anytime soon. So you end up with debt. So it's worse.
Yeah, it is. It is worse. And I don't think that she's presenting an actual solution to get everybody have a useless degree. Like, really? No. So let's move on and see what else she has.
I'm being told that there are truck driving schools. I didn't know that. So I figured you need a special kind of certification, so there must be something. But anyway, moving on.
Well, yeah, sure, pay for that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what she's talking about when she complains about defamation for being elitist. I think she's talking about the places that create this postmodern word salad peer review nonsense that we've done on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like topographies of the trans beaver relationship between the human landscape modifications and the like, seriously, we did do that once.
Yeah, I remember that one.
The relationship between being trans and dealing with beaver ecology. It's like, do we really need more of that? I mean, I don't mean to insult trans people or beavers or ecology, but I think that the three of them beavers and ecology make sense. I think one of these things is not like the other, and probably doesn't need to be. In fact, when I read that, I was like, is this woman, because I believe it was a woman, or it might have been a trans man, is this individual, is this tongue-in-cheek? Is this a Poe? Is this person just rounding out their portfolio and getting up their publication numbers? Because it was so absurd. But regardless, but we don't need more of that.
No. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. Okay, so moving on. Oh, see, Syria De Flora gives us $5 and says, I am getting my Associates of Arts degree. It's required for the master's program for library and information degree. Okay.
Well, that's not, I mean, I know that some people would make fun of a library degree, but I think that that's pretty legitimate. We still need libraries, folks.
Yeah, sure.
More than ever.
I mean, I have an arts degree too, and part of me regrets it, but I don't know. I learned some good skills, so I'm not saying it's completely useless in every instance. Obviously, if it works for you, it works for you.
Art degree, yeah, I got some skills out of the art degree. You have to be very creative when you approach getting an art degree or that kind of degree.
Yeah,
because it's all going to come down to your ability to either write grants or be able to sell your work in galleries. People who approach it in terms of a business do pretty well. And, but if they have skill, and usually skill is a result of hard work. So if you're hardworking and you're realistic, you can probably make something of an art degree, but you can't approach it like, oh, I'm an artiste.
Yeah.
Business is beneath me. It's for those people who are corrupted by the capitalist hegemony.
Sellouts. All right, moving on.
Nothing we can do to stop that. We're not going to get rid of technology. It will continue to advance, and our only fight against that is to continue educating Americans for higher paying, high skilled jobs.
So last week he did a similar segment about.
Oh, man, I don't think Jank is adding anything to this. I think that's basically the study. So she claims the author said, one thing, and then she goes to this anecdote where one guy says, I'm not going into nursing, that's for ladies. And then she comes back to this, it's weak.
And it's really interesting, because if you read into his comment, he's basically saying, I'm not going to go into nursing. It requires a skill set that women have and I don't as a man.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we change that? Like, it requires a woman's touch. And I assume what he means by a woman's touch is a touch of someone who isn't sexually predatory, isn't abusive, isn't aggressive, isn't characterized by violence, doesn't have excess testosterone, doesn't engage, isn't potentially infected with toxic masculinity. I wonder how we can change the social attitude that presents men as abusive, rapey, inflicted with toxic masculinity, oppressive, and not having the sensitive and tender qualities that might be required by a nurse. I wonder what group we might want to oppose, what narrative we might want to look at and say, hey, this isn't reality. I wonder how we could get rid of this idea that men are prone to toxic masculinity. I wonder how we could get rid of that public perception that men are uniquely rapey and abusive.
Yada.
Give me a thank you. Give me a thank you for feminists for getting your right to vote. Otherwise, stop voting and go make me a ham sandwich.
Oh man. Okay.
All right. So I'm going back to before we jumped ahead into the MIT thing, because I think there's a couple of other points that they make here. We got about 20 minutes still, so.
Fertility, but he twisted the results of that study to suit his narrative. Right. So he made it seem as though, society is really screwing men over. Women are getting paid a lot more now.
No. I don't think he's saying society is really screwing men over. He's basically seeing that there is a problem on the horizon. I actually think that in some ways Tucker didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
In trying to make his point. Yeah.
Well, he didn't. I don't think he connected all of the dots, but that's okay. He's just in the lip of the precipice. But okay, I'm gonna flag this out. Red flags. Okay. This is Alison's about to spurg. I want to make a comparison here. So we know that having an income is essential to being attractive for a man. This is something that I've seen in multiple studies. And also that men are aware of this. This is why they pursue a higher income, because they want to be attractive to women. So if you think about it, the entire income, the entire a business sphere where the men take these jobs, they're taking these jobs and they're competing to be more attractive to women. So it's almost got a parallel to the beauty industry, where women are competing to be more attractive to men. And yet, this individual woman is blaming, but if she was talking about the beauty industry, she would be blaming women because they're more interested in being beautiful than men, and saying that that they're pursuing a privilege rather than wanting to be attractive to men. They're pursuing privilege over men because they are more beautiful than men, and they use the beauty industry to create more beauty resources for themselves, and men don't get those beauty resources, and women are hogging all the beauty resources, and they're just keeping them from the men, and it's just female privilege and the matriarchy, blah blah blah. I mean, this is the reverse here. If you look at it, that men are attempting to make themselves more attractive through a bank account, women are attempting to make themselves more attractive through all of these mechanisms of generating beauty, diet, exercise, makeup, very, very, very flashy clothing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they are acquiring beauty resources that men are socially stigmatized against requiring. And I don't even mean in that men would be dressing up like drag queens. Even in the 80s, men could show off their bodies more than they can now. Like, basically, men have gone from being able to do things like wear hot pants without being called a faggot in the 80s, to every man has to wear a potato sack, or he's gay. So there has been a differential since the 70s and the 80s in how much men can accentuate their attractiveness. And it's always going down, 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 as women go up, 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 up. And if you if you regard income as a source of attractiveness and the beauty ideal as a source of attractiveness, so men are fighting over the income ideal, women are fighting over the beauty ideal, what this woman is doing is blaming women for wanting to be attractive to men. blaming women for wanting to be attracted to men, and then also saying it's only women that make them want to be attractive to men, and that they are doing something by depriving men of being able to be beautiful. Like it's incoherent, and I don't know if I helped. So
Yeah.
I'll step off.
No, I hear what you're saying. Okay.
No, you can say you don't. I'm just saying that this is so uncharitable by Anna.
No, it is. Yeah. Yes. That's what they do.
It's so uncharitable, and it's so, like, why would she think that men being able to have an income that makes them attractive to women is something that they're doing to oppress women?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think they're going to do with it? Are women wearing corsets, putting in hair extensions, doing their eyes, doing their nails, and putting makeup on? Is that actually disenfranchising men? Because they're appropriating all the beauty resources. You have a higher beauty income in a year. Is it, Anna?
Yeah,
Anyway.
she would say that's still men doing that to women, of course.
Yeah, because like I said, it's against their religion to recognize that women have any kind of influence in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people who say that they advocate for women. No, they advocate for a particular female role in which they have absolutely no effect on anything. They have no consequences to their actions, and they have zero moral agency. They don't advocate for women. They advocate for a particular role for women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. This isn't a super chat, but it's to your point. Deedless Deity says, the conclusions sound a lot like the Islamic societies that came here. Women covered up, men prettying themselves up to extreme degrees.
You mean Muslim men prettying themselves up?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he would have to. I shouldn't ask a direct question, but
Okay.
That's really off topic. I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us
I
continue.
could say some stuff to that, but let's
right.
continue.
And as a result, it's destroying the sanctity of marriage. And look, in that
No, Tucker didn't say that. This is another misrepresentation, I gotta say. Tucker did not say it's destroying the sanctity of marriage or, God's plan or any of that dumb shit that usually is presented from the Young Turks towards anyone that's not as far left as they are. What Tucker is saying is marriages are less successful when men don't have either jobs or they make less than their wives or partners. Their marriages fail and families fall apart. And the statistics bear it out. And it's actually pretty obvious when you know that. That's not the same as saying, OMG, my sanctity of marriage. Those are not the same. It's about people staying together or not.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
same video that we just showed you, he talked about how men earning less leads to lower fertility, but increases the number of children born out of wedlock. Does he know what fertility is?
Okay, do you understand the concept? All right. When we live, okay, let's imagine we're in an area where there are no jobs for men. There are no marriages now because there are no jobs for men. No men are making enough money to be marriageable for the women. But the women are okay, let me step back a bit, and I apologize again to everyone. I know I'm a spurg, and sometimes it can be hard to follow me. Let's imagine two regions. One region is poverty-stricken, no man can get a job. Another region is not poverty-stricken. Every man has a job, and every man has a good job that makes him attractive to the women in that region. In the region where every man has a good job that makes him attractive to the women in the region, what do you think happens? You have a whole bunch of married couples having children. So let's say 100 and 100 in both regions. You have 100 married couples having children and raising those children. In the region where men don't have jobs, where they can make themselves attractive to women, you have 0 marriages. And the only children that are being born to single mothers who are on welfare. So overall, you have 100 couples happily having children, and then you have whatever percentage of women who are willing to go on welfare to have children having children. So that the idea that the fertility of one is less than the other, but they're still having babies. Some women are still having babies is not incompatible. Because you could have in the one, 50 women all having babies because they're all married and they're all in a stable family relationship and having those. And then you could have 2 or 5 women in the other on welfare having children. And even though in that scenario, there's only 5 of them, there are 10 times more women having children in the other scenario. And you know why? Because maybe women don't want to have children on welfare in general, unless they are in a situation where they have no other choice. Maybe they would rather have children in an intact family.
Another thing too is that and I could be wrong here, but wouldn't it be the case that in your scenario where you have the community with 100 people that are 100 men that don't have jobs, wouldn't the women who are getting pregnant be selecting for different reasons other than sort of economic security, but rather something like, they'd be selecting for things like aggression or their ability to protect their young or something like that?
Yes, actually.
Yes.
That's exactly what happened. When you take provision out of the scenario, economic provision or some form of provision, because when we talk about provision doesn't necessarily have to be just economic or resources. If you look at tribes, sometimes provision is a man who can make the most elaborate flute or can dance the best or has some other skill that's admirable. So it's just this idea that the man is bringing something to the table that people admire. When you take that out, when you take out provision, we go back a couple steps in our evolution, back to this kind of alpha male model what the alpha male, quote unquote alpha male, and I'm just using that because it's the lazy.
It just helps you know.
It's the lazy slang, right?
Yes.
It's the lazy slang, right?
Yeah.
The alpha male, what he provides all the women's is protection. So he's the one who can go out and kill other men. Now, in one scenario, in the provision scenario, we have usually in the provision scenario where men find their niche and create something that their group admires and finds useful. In that scenario, there tends to be a lot of egalitarianism between the men. They're cooperative and they're relatively peaceful. In the several steps back in our evolutionary history with the alpha male, what he's showing off is his ability to kill other men or to defeat them physically. And then when you take provision out of it, you're left with the more primordial desire or the earlier desire for a man who can just kill other men. And that's what you see happening. And I've said this during our Tucker response. In poverty-stricken areas, men will engage in violence with each other, gang violence with each other, because killing another man will increase their reproductive opportunities. It's really freaking ugly. And if we want to change that, we got to go back into those areas and start to redevelop the provisioning mindset and figure out how men can create these little niches of respect and admiration so that they can create attractiveness to women. And I mean, if you look at tribal structures, this doesn't have to be the economically most powerful, because they don't. In a tribe, almost everything is shared. It's very socialistic, but it can be because everybody knows everybody else. It's not necessarily the highest amount of resources. Sometimes the guy that always finds the interesting shit out in the wild and brings it back so people can speculate on it. Or it's the guy who, like I said, makes the most elaborate flute. Or the one who's the really good stone napper. And every single one of these guys can find their own niche of admiration and skill and be worthy of being a mate. And at the same time, those men who are even more admired, interestingly enough, get the most industrious women. Because even in the tribal system, women tend to be doing a lot of the work of creating the day-to-day resources that people survive on. So, I mean, we have these two systems. Tucker is saying, let's keep the provision system. It's egalitarian, it's peaceful, it raises the best children, and it's the healthiest for everyone. And when we don't have it, men out of necessity, may default into the alpha male, kill another man, and improve your reproductive capabilities system, which is not good for anyone, including the children. Anyway, and this effect that when men can't provision women, they'll turn to killing each other to increase their mate value, is statistically, it's there's a study out there that shows it, and somebody actually sent it to me. So thank you to that individual. It's on the previous Tucker video, and I really appreciate it. Excellent work. Thank you. All right, shall we continue?
Let's continue.
Because that kind of contradicts the message.
Well, this is like low energy arguing, because she either missed the point completely because she's a moron, or she intentionally did not make the case that you are making because she's dishonest.
I'm trying to think of a metaphor that would really work, because she's connecting two things. She thinks that if you increase out of wedlock birth, overall fertility increases, but that's not the case. Human beings are at their most fertile in pairs. This is true. Like, okay, I know Rome. Okay, anecdote about Rome. One of the things that was most terrifying about Rome was their sheer manpower. They were incredibly fertile, and one of the reasons why was because they had an absolute focus on monogamy. One man, one woman, and that is the most fertile scenario for human beings. It increases for whatever reason. Societies that embrace strict monogamy seem to be incredibly fertile. Now, I mean, you can look at societies like polygamy, where they have like 10 wives and one guy has like 70, but those are just isolated incidences. And for whatever reason, and I know that it seems to be other contributing factors are happening in our society to stop this. I think actually the focus away from monogamy towards promiscuity probably is what's happening in our society. Mm-hmm. But monogamy is the most fertile scenario for humans. You want to create a very, very large population. You focus on marriage and monogamy, and even those cultures who have supposed polygamy, it's not very common. So most marriages in those highly fertile cultures are actually also monogamous. So this idea that she somehow contradicted him is completely batshit. If you have a scenario that's focusing on monogamy, you don't have many single mothers, but you have an overall increase in fertility. Whereas this area where you're not focusing on monogamy, you may have more single mothers, or the only people reproducing are single mothers. So you may only have, like, out of 105 women reproducing. And that's going to be way more than the 50 women you have married in the place where they're focusing on monogamy. But and overall, your fertility is completely reduced because women don't want to reproduce alone. Like, fundamentally, that is not how women have evolved to be. They are extremely uncomfortable reproducing alone. And so most women would most likely choose not to reproduce at all if their only choice is to reproduce alone on the government dole. There are plenty of women who do choose that, but look at how the fertility overall is declining. More women are saying no. Yeah. And that's because it's evolutionarily unnatural. And the people can go on and on and on and on and on about evo-psych being this horrible thing, but that's the reality. We have evolved. We haven't just evolved for pair bonding. We've evolved for being in highly extended social groups, all of which contribute to the raising of our offspring. And this is an aspect of what made us human. What allowed us to have language for C's sake. Like, this is a hugely important part of us. And that's what Tucker is talking about. So yes, when the only way women can reproduce is through welfare or single motherhood, very few women will choose that. So the overall fertility is declining. When women are in a situation where they can choose monogamous marriages with a husband to raise their children, far more women choose to have children. That's the point that Tucker's making. And I cannot believe that Anna is this deliberate stupidity on her part? Or is she deliberately distorting what he's saying?
I think it's a deliberate distortion, to be honest. I think that when it comes to the Turks, they're more about debunking their opponents and the tactics don't matter. They're, so it's what we've said before. No such thing as bad tactics, only bad targets.
Exactly.
I got a couple super chats. Mr. Roboto gives us $2 and says that never gets old, in reference to my ham sandwich soundbite by Jank. Thank you, Jank, for making my soundboard a little bit richer. Mr. Roboto gives us $5 and says, if the carrot is gone for females is gone, I guess what he means is if the carrot for females is gone, would that kill the marriage industry? And that's it. So,
If the carrot for females is gone, would that kill the marriage industry? Do you mean if I'm assuming that what he means is if men can't provide for women.
Yeah.
The incentive, okay, I'm not sure if it's necessarily an incentive, because the thing is that I have sort of gone to bat against this kind of desire for provisioning in the past in women. But after having read the mathematical models that suggest that pair bonding came out of male animals providing for female animals, and those female animals in turn developing a strong pair bond with the male animal that provided for them, it's like that may be a part of our nature. And really what we should do is have men be able to develop that kind of ability to create a provisioning. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, because if you look throughout all of these different cultures, it's not always just economic resources. It's the most beautiful flute. It's the best dancer. It's the best flint napper. It's the best guy who can find the freaking honey. Like, each guy finds his own thing that he's good at and his own way of shining. And maybe if we could focus more on that, then some of this crisis could be alleviated, and understand that it may not necessarily be economic, because we're going through a situation where it looks like it's quite possible that men will lose a significant amount of their economic attractiveness. But maybe what we could do is sort of develop or think about how to create ways that men can develop another way of approaching admiration and skill. Mm-hmm. And it's a very complicated, it's a difficult problem to address, but I think we should talk about it, and we should think about solutions to that problem of just transitioning away from the expectation of necessarily seeing income as the peacock's tail, towards seeing maybe specialized skill sets like we see in tribal societies as the peacock's tail. And I mean, even incorporate some of the pickup artist stuff, where they start talking about social proof and this kind of maintaining frame and other stuff like that as being a way of attracting women and becoming the kind of men that women would desire. And so I think that this is a really important discussion to have. And you're right, it is a carrot. But if we can start having the discussion of how men either can work on believing themselves to be the reward for women in the relationship, or work on the skills and the types of provisioning and types of creating admiration, the types of creating social proof that allow them to become the carrot, I think that would be a very productive conversation. And maybe we could move forward into helping transition through these issues, these economic issues. Yeah. Without necessarily intervening in the marketplace and giving the government more reason to go in and sort of screw things up. Okay.
All right. So it's been an hour. Do you want to do another clip, or should we just cut it off here and do the after show?
I think that have we read all the super chats?
No. Let me just make sure. Yes, we have.
Okay. I think we cut it off in the half hour. I think what we've discussed and the situation where Anna sort of didn't quite get what Tucker was trying to convey when he said that although the number of single mothers increased, overall fertility declined. Whereas in the situation where they're encouraging monogamous relationships, it's higher fertility overall, but low single motherhood. I don't think she quite got that. No. And I don't think we have actually addressed the issue where you said that they addressed that women don't actually want men who make money.
Yeah, that's coming up in here. That basically.
Well, you know what?
What?
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna sum up. I think what the argument was. That they were saying that it's Tucker is not making any sense because he's claiming that men are making less money than women, so therefore they're going to have a harder time getting married, but also that women are asking for more money than men. So they're thinking that statement doesn't make sense because on the one hand, women want men who make more than them, but on the other hand, they also want to make more money than men. But Tucker's not saying that, right?
Well, also it doesn't have to make sense because lots of people want to eat their cake and have it too. Mm-hmm. They want to make lots and lots of money, but also want a partner who makes more than them. Yeah. They want to make more money than the average man, or make as much money as the average man and have a partner who wants to make more than them. It's sort of like, some guys want to have a slender girlfriend, but don't want her to be too picky about what she eats. It's sort of the cake and eat it too scenario, and guys do it too, possibly not on as large a scale as this. So. Well, no, because they're not encouraged to do it to that scale. No, that's not something that we deem permissible. One other, I guess, basically to sum up, those are the central arguments that the Young Turks make, if I remember correctly, because I watched this video yesterday in preparation for the show, and but they don't actually do a lot to refute the core arguments that Tucker is making on his video. So this is simply, it seems to me, a video made to allow the people who still watch the Young Turks. Also, let me show you guys the like-dislike bar on this video, which is 2,100 likes, 2,200 dislikes. So the people aren't buying it, and so there's that. Half of them are. Well, half of them are, which is a lot. But considering, I would imagine most of the people who watch this are fans, unless they have that many hate watchers, which is holy shit, one could only dream. But yeah, I don't think people are buying it. So this isn't. This is basically the crux of their arguments, and they're not very strong. Well, no, they aren't very strong, and we can cover the argument about women not actually wanting. Women not actually wanting men who make more than them. We can do that in the after show. Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to join us, www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. We're always welcome. And you can also join us in the Discord, because we go in there and we chat with the peoples. Yeah. We have fun with them. Before you guys leave, because I know people are going to start dropping out because we're closing up shop, hit that like button before you go. It helps us a great deal. And it gives our videos more visibility. And I think that, the Young Turks they have 3 million subs or some crazy number, 3.7. Come on, guys. Come on. So hit the like button and spread it around, and be sure to hit notifications so that you know when our videos go live, because I understand that sometimes people don't get notified unless you hit the notification bell. But smash that like button. Do it. Okay, Alison, you can finish wrapping up. Yeah, let's take it. See you guys in the flip side.